Before the world called this land the Gold Coast, before European ships touched its shores, this land had a story of kings and warriors, of traders and explorers, of a people deeply connected to Africa and the world beyond. Today, we travel back in time to uncover Ghana's forgotten beginnings, before colonial maps, before written records, and maybe, just maybe, before Christopher Columbus set foot in the Americas. Many have heard of the Great Ghana Empire, a powerful kingdom rich in gold and trade. But here's a secret: that empire was not in today's Ghana. It was far away, deep in the Sahel region of modern Mali and Mauritania. So why is our nation called Ghana today? Well, because in 1957, when the Gold Coast was about to gain independence, our leaders looked back in history. They chose the name Ghana, inspired by the glory of the ancient empire, to reclaim our African identity. But even before the name Ghana was chosen, this land was not empty. It was home to powerful kingdoms and civilizations long before any European ever set foot here. The Akan people, which is made up of Dainchara, Bono, Asante, Achem, and Fanti, built sophisticated trade networks, controlled vast gold mines, and developed unique governance systems. The Ga Adambe people settled along the coast, skilled in fishing and trade, later becoming key players in early European encounters. The Mole Dagbani kingdoms, like Mamprugu and Dagbon, played key roles in trans-Saharan trade, linking Ghana to the vast Sahara and beyond. Gold was the lifeblood of these kingdoms, and it was this gold that would eventually attract foreigners to our shores. Now, here's where history takes an interesting turn. What if I told you that Christopher Columbus, the man credited with discovering the Americas, might have learned his skills right here on the African coast? History tells us that before Columbus set sail for the Americas in 1492, he trained under Portuguese navigators. But what many don't realize is that the Portuguese had been mapping Ghana's coastline decades earlier. In the 1470s, Portuguese explorers reached the land that would later be called the Gold Coast. They built forts, traded with local rulers, and learned the secrets of African navigation and trade. Some historians speculate that Columbus, while working with the Portuguese, studied their maps of West Africa, maybe even Ghana's coast, before his famous voyage westward. Could it be that Africa's knowledge helped shape the very journey that led to the discovery of the New World? Ghana's history runs deep. Long before colonization, long before foreign maps were drawn, this was a land of kings, warriors, and visionaries. But as the 15th century unfolded, a new force arrived. Europeans came in search of gold, and soon a new chapter of history would begin. In our next episode, we uncover the arrival of the Portuguese, the rise of the Gold Coast, and the true impact of European contact. You won't want to miss it. The year is 1471. A strange ship appears on the horizon. It is not the first to come this way, but this time, something is different. A new era is about to begin. This land, rich in gold, had long been a prize, but now the world was changing. And soon, the land we now call Ghana would never be the same again. Long before the British or the Dutch, the first Europeans to reach Ghana were the Portuguese, led by explorers like João de Santarém and Pedro Escobar in 1471. And what did they find? Gold. So much gold that they named the place Mina de Ouro, the mine of gold. This is how the name Elmina was born. For centuries, gold had been the heartbeat of Ghana's kingdoms. The Akan people, skilled miners and traders, controlled the wealth of the land. But now, new players had entered the game. The Portuguese quickly realized that if they controlled the gold trade, they could become the richest empire in Europe. But there was one problem. The Akan people were no fools. They knew their worth. They had traded with North African merchants long before the Portuguese came, and they were not about to let foreigners take over so easily. The Portuguese had a bold plan to build a massive fortress to protect their new trade routes. And in 1482, they constructed Elmina Castle, the first European building in sub-Saharan Africa. But here's what most people don't know. This was not just about trade. This was about power. Whoever controlled Elmina controlled the gold trade. And for the next century, the Portuguese ruled this part of Ghana like kings. But the Akan chiefs were watching. They saw the walls of Elmina rise. They saw how the Portuguese grew richer, and some began to resist. It wouldn't take long before the first battles for control began. But the Portuguese were not the only ones who wanted a piece of Ghana's gold. Others were coming. By the 1600s, the Portuguese monopoly was broken. The Dutch came, then the British, then the Danes, and suddenly Ghana's coastline became the most valuable strip of land in West Africa. Each European power built its own castle, its own trade routes, its own connections, and it was during this time that the name Gold Coast became official. But with gold came something darker, something more devastating. A new trade would soon emerge, a trade in human lives. The gold trade changed Ghana forever, but it was only the beginning. A new trade was rising, a trade that would shake Africa to its core. the transatlantic slave trade. In our next episode, we uncover the darkest chapter in Ghana's history. The castles that once stored gold would soon become prisons. The Gold Coast would become the Slave Coast. Stay with us as we reveal truth.